1 month after Solo Shuffle was released, I managed to heal my way to Duelist for my first time ever. That day was January 8th and filled with a healthy mix of emotions and an ambitious optimism that reaching Elite would be in my future. But since hitting Duelist, I've played roughly 1,500 more rounds of Solo Shuffle and still find myself riding the rating roller coaster between 1,700 to 2,100. In that last month, I've continued to learn new things about the game and have adapted new techniques into my playstyle, so much so that I feel confident the Tro today could out-heal the Tro that hit Duelist a month ago. Yet my rating doesn't reflect that, and I just can't figure out why. So in search of an answer, I reached out to my favorite Holy Paladin extraordinaire and streamer, Borngood, and inquired to hire him for a coaching session. Aside from being a humble, good-humored dude, he's also the rank 2 Holy Paladin on the NA Solo Shuffle ladder with over 30 seasons of arena healing experience. He was kind enough to let me document our coaching session, in hopes of helping as many of you brave healers on the front line of Solo Shuffle as possible. In today's session, I learned a ton, and I hope you will too.
All right, don't start it yet, all right? Because I'm gonna give you a couple things first before we even start here. You want to gain some current rating in Solo Shuffle, you're gonna probably play melee wings, and that's Avenging Crusader. To be honest, Avenging Crusader did get nerfed a bit. It's a bit harder to use with the Holy Power change. So for the most part in these games, your Holy Power management is going to be really important. And then the second thing is, since Aura of Reckoning got nerfed, you're going to have less uptime on your melee wings. So it's going to come down to when to play offensive, when to play defensive, and kind of bridging the gap between when you get those wings procs and activation time. That's kind of the core of like what you're going to be doing in Shuffle.
With the talents here right off the bat, you see something you would change?
The right side of the tree looks pretty good. Essentially, what's going to happen on the right side of the tree is some matchups you're going to play double beacon, and then some matchups you're going to right click it and then put it into Relentless Inquisitor, which is the haste node, to play one beacon. And the reason you do that is because with one beacon, you get increased single target healing due to the way that melee wings kind of splashes healing on your whole team and then transfers the one beacon target instead of splitting it into two. For example, versus an arms warrior, playing that single beacon sometimes is really important because arms warriors do a massive ton of single target damage. That's kind of a situation where you consider going single beacon. And we saw that in the AWC. Brain played it versus Peekaboo Warrior, one game, I believe.
Well, without further ado, let's get going.
All right.
Perfect.
Cleanse the weak versus the Ellie, man. That's important.
Yep, that's why this is a good matchup, in my opinion.
You're starting off strong. All right, Mistweavers in general, you kind of have to suss out if he's a Fistweaver or not. If he's a Fistweaver, you're going to try and stay away from him, not to give him the free healing off you. Kind of hanging back, it's good. So out of the gate, you generally want to start with 4 to 5 Holy Power. So kind of the rotation at the beginning of every single Solo Shuffle, no matter what matchup it is, I do the same thing every time. Gate opens, I Holy Shock, I Bestow Faith, I Flash a Light twice, and then I use a second Holy Shock, and that's 5 Holy Power. The reason you do that is because starting the match with 5 Holy Power, let's say you're versus a rogue team and you get sapped, or let's say this Warrior Leap Furies you out of the gate, and your team's going to get pretty low while you're crowd controlled immediately. So you want to be hitting that Avenging Crusader, which costs 5 Holy Power, pretty much right away.
You're about to see kind of like some big decision making right out the gate, and I'm excited to see what your thoughts are. So here we go.
Good up. We don't mind that trade. Good blind.
So I basically see he's trying to come on to me for some reason. I kind of just try and shut him down early before he's used cooldowns.
So what you did there is you Hodge blinded the warrior. Essentially, your team right now is on the Ellie Shaman. So a lot of the time in Shuffle, your job as the Holy Paladin is to CC the DPS. That is not the kill target. Okay, that's actually something really important, is because if you're able to get cross crowd control, especially if your DPS are going to be CCing the kill target and the healer, because let's be honest, if you're in a Solo Shuffle, your DPS are more likely to CC a healer than the off DPS, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you taking care of that third target is actually really, really important. I like what you did there. So definitely look to do a Hodge blind on DPS a lot, especially in the opener. All right, go ahead. All right, got wings active. Walking in.
Not a lot of value out of these.
I think it's all right. Good swap beacon. Yeah, good beacon swap. Good sack. So the game is kind of stalled out a bit. Everyone's kind of pressed a bunch of buttons all at once. What I would notice here is that your warrior hasn't really been attacked at all. And at that point, I would be swapping Beacon to myself. Because with Cleanse the Weak, the AoE Dispel versus Ellie's, you take a lot of kickback damage. So just having that Beacon on yourself, just to kind of stave off those swap opportunities on yourself, is pretty important. Now is about the time where things are kind of slowing down in the round, is where I'd be looking for rebukes and kicks and that sort of thing. But also, you'll notice that your melee wings are almost over. So I would be preparing to play defensive, which you happen to be at a pillar right now. So that seems pretty good.
It's a good start. We'll see how that sticks up.
Yeah. One important thing with a caster on your team, especially versus warriors and melee, is freedoming the guy that's getting hit. Freedom is actually such an undervalued ability when it comes to shuffle, because not only are people maybe not as coordinated to dispel the freedom, but in a lot of situations, with the amount of mobility in the game and the amount of slows as well, freedoms essentially can be like an immunity, kind of. You know what I mean? Versus a warrior, like if you freedom your mage and the warrior can't hit him for 10 seconds just because of freedom, like that's pretty crazy. But that's just something to look out for, your freedoms.
And here I'm kind of just like floating in this zone on top of the Mistweaver. Do you feel like this is risky? Like,
no, I think having a Hodge available is good. Now, if you don't have any CC for him, you probably don't want to be next to him.
Right.
You can go for a rebuke like you did there, which is great. But you don't really want to stand next to the enemy healer unless you have crowd control. That's kind of something to think about, because you might CC yourself.
Right, because I also see here that leg sweep's not even on cooldown, so that was totally just opening myself up to be CC'd there.
Exactly. And I mean, for example, a Mistweaver, he could incap you into a leg sweep, into a Song of Chi-Ji. You're out of the game for 10 seconds just because you wanted to be near him, right? But you can also do the same thing to him if you have your crowd control. So if you're going to go into the enemy healer as a healer, you better have a game plan.
Hey, pardon this quick interruption. This is my first video of this style I've made, so let me know what you like or what I could improve upon, and leave that feedback in the comment section below. Also, if you'd like to help other people see it, like and sub. It helps a lot. Thank you. All right, back to the vid.
I mean, this match is going fine so far. Bop was maybe a bit preemptive, but that's okay sometimes in Shuffle, because it's going to be a very, very quick lobby, or quick rounds most of the time.
Right.
I like that blind. Good lines. Your positioning is good here. Being out of line of the Ellie when your melee wings are over is really important, actually.
Nice.
Mage got a full altar. Yeah, these are the situations where even though the enemy team's not slowing your mage, just putting up a freedom on him, like that's the main thing I can see, is like you're using your bops, you're using your melee wings, you're using your crowd control. Freedom's here. Freedom is actually big. And what I'll also say is that I'll just point out here the sack block overlap. Kind of the game plan in Shuffle as a Holy Paladin is to attempt. You have so many cooldowns to use, right? But you have to space it out and just attempt to not overlap with your team. That's kind of the objective there with that. And sometimes they make the choice for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, certainly. I think for like playing the long game, you really don't want to overlap not only cooldowns with them, but your own personal cooldowns. Because that's something I'll find myself doing a lot. I'll sack, and then it's like, man, that just wasn't enough. And then I throw a bop, and then it's like, now I'm down 2.
Something a lot of the time that actually happens in Shuffle, I find, is that you'll have to pair Hand of Sacrifice in the opener with a Lay on Hands, actually. And the reason you do that, specifically with Shuffle, the dampening mechanic starts very high and then stacks up very quickly. So it starts at 10% and then it ramps up super hard after 1 minute of the game. So you're trying to basically use your Lay on Hands in the first minute to 2 minutes of the game, because you're going to get more value out of it earlier in the game, while a Blessing of Protection later in the game get more value than Lay on Hands because it's not affected by dampening.
And this is a position actually that I really would love to get your read, because here I am like right here, and you'll see it kind of opens up here in a second. Okay, right now, like, okay, you see me, I come out, I panic sack, I'm almost half health, the mage is low health, I actually do have melee wings, but I only have 3 holy power. This is a situation where like the game feels hard now. Like now I'm panicked. I'm like, is this Ellie gonna kick me? Is this Mistweaver gonna CC me? Like this is where the game gets really hard.
Straight up, I'll tell you exactly what I would do. You're going to press 3 to 4 abilities here pretty quickly. When you put that sack up, you're going to use your Divine Protection, which is going to reduce damage on you by 30%. And you kind of want to think of the quickest way to get 2 Holy Power here. I would do a Holy Shock into a Divine Favor Flashlight while I'm using Divine Protection. Those are the 4 abilities I would be pressing in the next couple seconds. And then you're popping your wings and you're hitting that Judgment and hoping you get a crit.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, great. Well, let's see what I choose to do now with that said. Oh, man.
Holy Shock, Bestow, that's fine. Flashlight, great. You got a wings up. That was fine. The only thing was your mage panic blocked, and that's gonna happen. That's shuffle, right? That's something I really want to hammer home here is that a lot of the time stuff happens and it's out of your control. You just try to play as consistent as you can and try and have fun with it. Well, you guys are in a pretty good spot here. I'm not gonna lie. Mistweaver has no trinket. You could probably get a kill on the Ellie soon, but we'll see who you end up killing. Mistweaver, no trinket, not a bad choice. Good dispel. I like the freedom.
Try to get that last judge. Looks like I missed it.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna point out. Is you gotta be very very proactive with your judges. Like if your judgment's ever on cooldown, you better have a good reason. Judgment is your #1 priority when you have wings up. Nothing else takes precedent over that unless you're gonna like bubble or blessing or protection or use like a really major cooldown. And it's just those little optimizations of getting every single point of healing out of your melee wings, it does add up. It really does. All right, Force Cocoon. You can make a swap to the mage. I mean, your team's been playing okay so far. Nice rebuke.
I should kill this Fury, but I didn't.
That's okay. Good Hodge. I like your targeting choices here. Good wings. Yeah, that bop's okay. At that point of the game and dampening, we're at 64%. If you have any cooldowns left, you're just full sending. You sent the bop, you sent the wings. You know, I would even go for like a Divine Toll or something. Just send everything. Because this is the point in the game where each team's going to be low on cooldowns. So you're just going to send everything you have left. And it's usually about this 3 minutes into the game at like the 60% dampening mark where I find if a match is going to go longer, this is where it generally ends. But I'd say the average match length in each round would be like 1 to 2 minutes. I would say 3 minutes is on the longer side usually.
So this is a little bit of a longer match. I mean, it certainly is for me.
I think you were right in your assessment. I think you played that pretty good. I know the lobby didn't go great for you, as we can see here. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh man!
From
what
a
am I
purely,
paying you for, man? No,
from a purely current rating standpoint, but no, we saw some good stuff there. Yeah, the main takeaways for me from this clip is that your positioning was good, your crowd control was good. I would say the cooldowns were just fine.
Yeah.
More freedom usage, more healing out of your melee wings. It might not have mattered that round, but it will matter in other rounds where you kind of barely scrape by. And every global ends up mattering in those type of situations.
The last thing on this clip was, I feel like this, I end up, like, it luckily wasn't very much in this lobby, but this zone right here, like, okay, here I am now. I'm just in like the center of the map, and for like the next 15 seconds or so, I'm kind of just free floating. Like, pop wings, but like, oh, there's not even anything I'm looking at. My team's not even under pressure.
So what I'll say
Yeah.
is that the reason that was okay and you didn't get punished is because the enemy team was not only CC'd, but they were defensively positioned. You see where the Ellie is?
Yeah,
Behind
he's
the
right
pillar?
back here, yeah.
Even though you're in the middle, you're not actually in the middle. You're in a spot where neither of the DPS can even touch you. You always have to pay attention. You know, maybe behind the pillar is great, but what if there's someone there to kill you? In Shuffle, as a healer,
Yep.
I'm sure we've all ran into the warrior that goes behind the pillar,
Yeah.
gets kidney shot and dies.
Yeah, for sure.
No warrior hate, but let's be real. It's always a warrior.
No, just love. Warrior love. This is a warrior shout out.
Exactly.
Okay, so now they're both back there. My mage is kind of pushing up into them. It looks like my warrior's kind of chasing him out.
You go the right way here, and so does your warrior.
So you think this is the right call from both of us to kind of come around the side, or should I be positioned
Yes.
a little more? Okay.
You went the right side because that's the side your mage was on. What can happen is if you go the other side,
Yeah.
your mage is just going to get line of sighted, and it's going to be like kind of a 3v2 situation that you could have avoided. So even if you have to pause the combat for a sec, and that's what happens here, even if you have to pause combat for a second to readjust positioning, you'd rather that than have yourself put into a 2v3 situation where your caster can't even help you out behind pillars and stuff like that.
So maybe the move here would have been this wings was probably a little too preemptive, do you think?
Not necessarily. I think I think what ends up happening here, you could have been a bit more greedy with it. You and your mage had good CC on the warrior. So in general, it's okay to pop your wings early like that. But yeah, you can definitely try and be a bit more greedy with it. A lot of the time, if combat's pretty slow in the beginning in a shuffle lobby, what I'll end up doing is I'll go for an early divine toll and spend my holy power on Word of Glories. Because I'm starting the game with 5 holy power, right? If I don't really need to pop my melee wings yet, like nothing's really happening, I'll actually try and fish for wings procs with Word of Glory. Because I know I have divine favor in my back pocket to use in a pinch to activate my wings in the next global, right? I wouldn't really do that unless I had divine toll, especially if I'm gonna need wings soon. But at the start of combat, like the round's just starting, it can be a little bit slower with your wings, yeah.
Okay, well, awesome. So that's good matchup. We passed. What would you grade us if this was a academic? What was our grade on the good matchup?
What's the scale? A, B, C, D,
F.
E. No E's. That would be an A minus. The reason the minus,
yeah,
your freedom usage.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Totally. All right, you made it through the video. I'm excited to share that I have a few more similar videos coming out with Borngood, focusing on different places to improve as a healer. Please let me know in the comments if you've learned anything today. I'm excited to hear. And if you would like to see more content from Borngood, or hire him to have your own one-on-one coaching session, check out his Twitch at twitch.tv/Borngood. Also, if you'd ever like to come hang with me, I stream at twitch.tv/Tro. Thanks so much for your time. I know how valuable it is.